know, you won't mess it up anymore if we do a high five. Like, once the high five happens, we're good. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Alexa, please stop the music. Please don't stop the music. Do you remember those days? Do you remember the club life?
I do remember the club life. Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
What's the deal with this club life? And where's it gonna fade out?
I can always count on you to love music as much as I do.
Yeah. I miss going to live music clubs. That's what I miss the most. I'm like, dang, like nobody's performing. It's like I miss going to see like just good artists and discovering new people, and hearing new people that I never heard before, especially at Sayers Club in LA. At Sayers Club, that was the spot I would go there every like Friday, Friday night, and they would have just black artists, you know, new black artists, some of which I knew, and it was fire. It was a really dope vibe, and I miss it. I just miss seeing my friends perform. I miss seeing people perform.
I'll use this as an opportunity to shout out, there was a local band, local to the Philadelphia and New Jersey area, the Sensational Soul Cruisers.
The Sensational Soul Cruisers.
Just the name alone, okay? They covered every soul song that you could possibly think of off the top of your head right now.
That's it.
And it was live. I think they were like a 13-piece band. Like, it was real. And when they would listen, I believe they had 4 horns in a horn section. And when they would conquer Earth, Wind, and Fire tracks, yes, they had a soprano that would kill that.
Nice.
I love you.
Did you get to watch the versus battle last night?
So yeah, I popped in and out. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch the whole thing, but like the few minutes that I tuned in, and Ron Isley was working on giving me a baby. Like I had become the virgin. He was working on making me pregnant when I did tune in, and then the other snippet that I caught after Ron Isley sang like a baby making song was D Nice DJing the whole thing. Like he was the one that was controlling what came next. So Ron Isley was making babies all across the world, all over the world. And then after he finished, he went to go sit down, and Earth, Wind, and Fire had to jump up. And I want to say they did, it wasn't Boogie Wonderland. It was like a super dance track. So Ron Isley had me like, Then they switched it. I was like, oh, Boogie Wonderland. I'm like, why did they switch it up like that?
Right. It was.
Yes, that's what it was. And I was just like, yo, the fact that they can still get up there in that higher range.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So before we officially get started, I do want to continue to just have a comfy conversation, but I also would like to know if you don't mind grabbing headphones of some sort, because my echo, unfortunately, is coming through.
Okay.
There are so many things to unveil in this conversation today. For that reason, I'm like, okay, wait, let's get started, because that just reminded me that there are more ways than one that we can just like peel back the layers of Zachariah Schmitt.
All right,
first and foremost, let's do it. I want to thank you for taking out the time to even sit and be a part of this conversation. That's very meaningful to me. And you could have been spending time doing anything else, like, you know, being an amazing photographer and editing the phenomenal photos that you've taken lately. But instead of editing right now, I have the pleasure of sitting with you. You're here on the Mirage podcast, and we're going to dive deep and uncover all of the reasons why you are one of the brightest people I've ever met. Zachariah Schmitt, thank you for being here.
What an intro. The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here, so I really appreciate you.
It looks like you've been practicing that reply. You've been on a podcast before?
No, you just make it so easy. I'm honestly not great at interviews. Like, you make it just so easy. Because it's just like, I feel like I'm just talking to you. Like, it's not, you know?
Yes. And thank you for saying that. That is my mission. That's what I go for. In my mind, this is a FaceTime call. What's up?
Exactly.
With just a little sprinkle of like, hey world, just make sure you really listen, because you need to hear what he has to say, because it's amazing. Just a sprinkle of that in there. But other than that, it's a combo between the two of us. How far back do we go, Zach?
Whew, we go back probably like I would say like 8 years, like a solid 8 years, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, through social media, Vine and stuff. Yeah, no, eight, eight
Vine.
is eight is a 8 years.
Vine.
Vine.
Like Vine. And I want to
Mm,
think, I want to remember when being on Vine, like what was I even posting? I feel like I saw you as a dancer, one
Yep,
of your many talents.
yep. I was dancing on Vine. That was the main thing. And you as well. You were dancing on Vine.
Okay.
I followed you because you were also a dancer. So
And that's what I was trying to remember. I'm like, wait, did I just sing
mhm,
on Vine? Maybe I just sang, but
no.
no, no. But then you can sing too. Were you singing on Vine as well as dancing?
A little bit. I think I posted like a couple of singing videos,
Yeah.
but it was real hard for me because the 7 seconds, like how do I impress people with my voice in
In
7 seconds? It was
17.
like difficult. So I'm like I don't think
Always done.
exactly. I don't think Vine was my platform. Really,
Mm.
Vidi was my
Well,
platform.
Vidi. Okay, I've never even been on Vidi.
Yeah.
So almost a decade now of
Hmm.
me seeing you be so multi-talented and fearless. Now, okay, question. When
Hmm.
you were on Vine, were you still at home?
I was still at home. Yeah, I was back home in
Okay.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we
Hmm.
would have connected while you were in Wisconsin, and then our connection, our internet friendship, regardless of how it blossomed, when it blossomed, you made the decision, the fearless and courageous decision to, you know what, I'm going to LA. Tell me your one, if you could summarize it in one sentence. In one sentence, I'm going to LA because.
I'm going to LA because God told me it was time.
Time to do what, Zach?
Time to start a new life in LA, like time to branch out. Wisconsin wasn't serving me anymore.
Wow.
It was just time. I mean, there was, a time period before I actually like decided that this is the time that I wanted to move and it just didn't work out.
Mm,
But like I was in just a very good place spiritually and just in a place of knowing that
mm.
this is the time right now to move and just pack up all my stuff and like this is the date I'm leaving and that's it. I'm going. And I feel like I this isn't so much advice as just it's just my experiences. I just felt a peace about it. Like
Mm.
I just felt a peace about moving,
Yeah.
because sometimes, people do things and they do it scared and it works out, you know.
Yes.
But like how I operate is I move based on a feeling of peace. Like if it doesn't
Yes.
bring me peace, I just don't gravitate towards it. I don't do it.
Amen.
Um,
I
so,
love that you
so
said that. I'm definitely going to bring that back up later. We'll have another conversation about spirituality overall and what it means to feel like you're at peace with certain things. So that'll come back up in conversation. I don't want to step too far away from the geographical aspect. Is that a word? Okay, we're gonna pretend
yeah,
like it
it
is for
is.
right now. I think it is. Okay,
Geographical
okay.
is
I'm like
definitely a word.
geographical.
Yeah.
Um, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Before we branch out into the super exciting story of you getting to LA and everything that has happened since you've been there, what year did you get to LA?
2015.
Okay, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's rewind to before about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
You said Wisconsin was not necessarily serving you, and it's like, no offense, Wisconsin, we don't want to offend the people that are being served there, that do call it
Yeah.
home, that do love and appreciate Wisconsin. Cool.
Hmm.
But I would like to know from you personally, what were some of the things that were on your mind or that you were struggling with? What was kind of showing you, all right, you may not belong here in particular? What were some
Yeah.
of your experiences?
Well, I mean, the main thing is, Wisconsin isn't necessarily a hub of entertainment. It's
Right.
I'm an entertainer. I sing, I dance, and I act. So those aren't things that I could really flourish in
Yep.
Wisconsin the way that I wanted to be in film and TV. Not
Okay.
really, there's no nothing for me in Wisconsin
Yeah.
for that. You know, there's stage, there's like local theater, there's like dinner theater, there's like the local performing arts college. But I didn't really, that wasn't really my lane. I wanted to be on screen rather than on stage.
Yeah.
On stage maybe for, you know, performing and singing, but
Right.
I just wanted to be on TV.
Yeah.
So so that's mainly why.
Mm-hmm.
And there really wasn't any networking opportunities as far as that went in Wisconsin. It just wasn't where it was at for me.
Yeah.
You know, I
So
did as
when
much as
you
I could.
say like LA versus New York, was New
Mhm.
York ever an option for you, or were you not really thinking about going to New York because that was more theatrical?
It really didn't have anything to do with it being theatrical. I've always loved LA. I've always been drawn to LA. I felt like LA was where I was supposed to be.
Mm.
And the weather is one thing, but also I like how it's more spread out. Like New York, everything's on top of each other.
Yes, this is
In
true.
yeah, New York, but in LA, it's just like you can be in a place that feels more suburban and
Right.
then be in the city at the same time. So I didn't feel like LA was such a culture shock in that way because you know, I was used to driving everywhere already because I lived in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I was used to driving where I needed to go.
Right.
So I didn't feel like it was much of a culture shock. I felt at home, really. It was
That's
expensive.
awesome.
Like it was a lot more
Right.
expensive for sure.
Gotcha.
Um,
But that's great that you already had some things to kind of be grounded to not feel like you're just totally tossed into the air when you got to LA. You were comfortable with traveling and the way that the city was set up, the areas, different areas of it. So that's really great.
yeah.
You didn't have to get over that hurdle of like, let's say somebody that came from little tiny New Jersey, little tiny South Jersey, and I got out there and I'm like, why does it take 30 minutes to get everywhere? Um, but yeah, okay, cool, cool. Wisconsin experiences. So you were saying because you wanted to be on TV, there's not a lot of that there. What are some of the things in terms of watching TV, being inspired by things that you've seen on both the big screen and the little screen? Where was your desire to
Yeah.
be on TV born? Where was that birthed from?
I think I think what it did, I've always loved movies. Like
Hmm.
I've always been a big fan of movies and how they
You
can
didn't have to get over that hurdle of like, let's say somebody that came from little tiny New Jersey, little tiny South Jersey, and I got out there and I'm like, why does it take 30 minutes to get everywhere? Um, but yeah, okay, cool, cool. Wisconsin experiences. So you were saying because you wanted to be on TV, there's not a lot of that there. What are some of the things in terms of watching TV, being inspired by things that you've seen on both the big screen and the little screen? Where was your desire to
yeah,
be on TV born? Where was that birthed from?
I think I think what it did, I've always loved movies. Like
Hmm.
I've always been a big fan of movies and how they can, you know, how they tell a story where they can really touch people and I just felt like, you know, movies really not only do music, I mean, does movies really touch people, but also I got a lot of my music from movies. Like, you
Yeah.
know, my parents like they didn't really, you know, for the people who don't know, I'm adopted.
Hmm.
And my family's white and, you know, as far as like my taste in hip hop and R&B and stuff like that came from movies. Um,
Wow.
that's where I would just get movie soundtracks. You know, that's how I would find, you know, a lot of the music that I would listen to.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, I just like the idea of being able to reach a lot of people all at once and make them feel,
Mm.
you know, when it comes to movies or music
Yeah.
or, you know.
What reached you and made you feel?
Well, my favorite movie is Antoine Fisher. Um,
Ugh.
that's
Yes.
that story is just it hits close to home for
Yeah.
one, and it's just a beautiful story. Like it really um it really made me want to like find my biological family
Mm.
and it even like it even made me want to go into the Navy at one point, but that never happened.
Oh wow.
But it inspired me a lot. Like that movie was really it was a really really good movie. It touched me.
And
Yeah.
when you mentioned, I feel like you mean that you were touched more so the actor aspect of your identity, the musical aspect of who you are. Are there specific songs and soundtracks that come to mind
Mm.
that you know influenced your taste in music today?
Ooh. My favorite soundtrack still to this day is the Space Jam soundtrack. Best movie soundtrack ever. Like, it's such a good soundtrack. Like, that was my introduction to hip hop,
So
was
good.
Space Jam.
So good.
That soundtrack was my introduction to hip hop. It had Jay-Z, it had LL Cool J, it had Busta Rhymes, it had Method Man, it had everybody.
Monica.
Growing up with a white family, they didn't watch these movies, so I had to, like, I'm still like constantly earning my black card with every movie I watch.
Right.
That's
Oh my
how I
gosh.
feel, you know. I had to earn. Nobody could take my black card. I earned it because I had to get it
Right, right.
myself.
You watched all of the, you've got a list, a
Right.
categorized, organized list. Okay, so
Right.
we will not get into my love for Space Jam. This interview is about you and not
Mm.
me and my love for Space Jam. I'm just going to insert real quick that I call Space Jam my step parent. Okay. I say
Wow.
that, you know, both of my parents, hardworking parents, mom was away in the office, dad worked from home.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would finish my little homeschooler worksheets, hey dad, I'm done. All right, you can put a movie on. What movie did I put on? Like 3 times a week. I am not exaggerating. 3 times a week.
Space Jam.
Space Jam. I could recite that whole movie right now, but I won't take up 96 minutes of your time. That's right. 96. Research it. Hold on. How long is Space
Space Jam.
Jam? Wait.
I believe you.
60, 70, 80, 90. Yo, an hour and 40 minutes. Anyway, so little intermission, battery
Yeah.
change, talk about our favorite movie. All
Yeah.
right, so the soundtrack, gotcha, and then Antoine Fisher. So
Mhm.
would you say that Denzel Washington is your favorite actor?
He's one of them. I mean, yeah, he's definitely up there. I don't know who I
Yeah.
would say my favorite actor is. I haven't thought about it in a while.
Interesting.
I just admire different actors in different ways.
Hmm.
But Denzel's definitely top. I mean,
Yeah.
he's at the top of my list. I don't know if I would say he's my absolute favorite, but he's definitely one of my favorites. He's definitely like he's that actor that I won't miss a movie that he's in. Like,
Yes.
so I
Yes.
mean, he might be my favorite. I don't know.
So you've mentioned your parents, you've mentioned being adopted. And, you know, I always like to reiterate for any new listeners, for anyone that's here listening because they know and love you as
Mhm.
much as you deserve to be known and loved. My mission, you know, I feel like if I were to Google your name, here are the things that I would see on the surface. We know that you are an actor. We know that you've been casted for many things. We've probably seen your face in a few commercials. That's real talk. We know that you are an actor. I love that you've given us that underlying description of you want to make people feel. You mentioned how the movie Antoine Fisher made you feel. You are an extremely talented singer and dancer. That is one of the reasons why you and I have connected in the first place. And then you are a talented photographer as of late. That is one of our more recent developments, correct?
Yeah, yeah, for the
Gotcha.
past 3, almost 4 years.
Yes. So in 2015, you uprooted your life. You knew that Wisconsin did not have the opportunities that you deserved and that you wanted to be dedicated to and really push for.
Mhm.
But because you mentioned your parents and your background overall, I would love to dig deeper, go beneath the surface of these things that we can see if we just hopped onto your Facebook real quick, which, by the way, happy birthday, Mom!
Yeah, it's my mom's birthday
Happy
today.
birthday, Mrs. Schmidt!
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she'll see that after the fact. Happy belated birthday!
right.
So
Yes.
I would like to ask on a deeper level
Hmm.
how your parents have supported you,
Hmm.
how they have helped you with just identifying yourself.
Mm.
You know, being as though you are, I don't want to say minority, that's not the word I wanted to use just now. Being as though you are not white, but you have been adopted to a white family. And we
Hmm.
can get more specific. Exactly what is their ethnic background, your family?
Yeah. So, are you talking about my biological family or
No, your
my
adopted family.
my adopted family? So my
Mm-hmm.
adopted family, they're white.
Mm-hmm.
My whole family's white with the exception of two half Korean cousins.
Gotcha.
But but yeah, my whole family, I was raised in a white family in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
very
So
loving.
how do you right, and that was my next question. How did they go about truly infusing love and acceptance into your life as they raised you? Are you the only adopted child in your family?
Yes, I
Okay.
am the only adopted child in my family. Yep. I was the
Mm,
only child growing up. They just loved me, they didn't they just, wanted a son there, or they wanted a kid. They just wanted a child to love. And that's, I was raised on love, and that's
mm,
why, I'm very blessed in that way because, a lot of people don't have that, unfortunately. Like,
right.
so I was fortunate enough to be raised in love because my parents, they wanted me, they chose me, like they literally
Right,
chose me.
right, right.
So yeah, I've always felt loved, I've always felt wanted. um
Mm. And
I
how old were
know.
you when it was revealed to you that you were adopted? I mean, aside from the obvious difference in your complexion, but what
Mhm.
were the conversations about once you were old enough to kind of question and inquire about your background versus your adopted family's background?
Right. So I had always known that I was adopted because my mom would she would tell the story of my adoption to me every night like a bedtime story. So I'd always just
Wow.
known, I'd known
So
that they chose
sweet.
me, that my mom, my biological mother, that she felt that she couldn't take care of me the way that I deserved, so she put me up for adoption. And that was the
Mhm.
story that I was told, when I was a child.
Wow.
So yeah,
And then
I didn't
how old were
really.
you in 2015?
In 2015, I was 22.
And at that point, you moving to LA, had you also started searching more diligently for your biological family?
Um, well, I had met my biological mother when I was 18.
Okay.
So, how that happened was my half brother, who I didn't know existed at the time, reached out
Hmm.
to me on Facebook. He searched my first name, and I was the second person that popped up, and he reached out in a Facebook message. And I was sitting in math class at the end of math class, and I was looking at my phone under the desk because I was trying not to get
I
caught in
am
my
telling
phone.
your math teacher.
I don't care. Tell her. Tell her. But yeah, I was looking at my phone under the desk, and I was like kind of reading the message because I'm like, who is this from? It was like a message request because it wasn't,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
And I'm like reading it, and it says, "Hey, please don't disregard this message. Something, something, blah blah blah. I'm Brandon." And you know, uh, my mom gave my brother up for adoption when he was a baby. Um, you
Wow.
might be him, basically. And I was like, holy crap.
Whoa. And
I was
how old is Brandon?
Brandon at the time, he was 17, I think, or 16.
Okay.
He's like a year and some change younger than me.
Okay,
Um,
so you were contacted by Brandon prior to knowing or searching for your biological mother.
right,
Wow.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
Mm,
I was thinking about searching for her, but
yeah.
then out of the blue, just
Mm.
they just kind of came into my life, which was really, really kind of crazy and great. But I was just like, I remember sitting in math class, and I was just like, like
And
looking around. I
the
was
teacher's
like,
like, Zach, what's going on back there? Why are you so excited about math?
no, she didn't.
Nobody's excited about math.
Yeah, she wasn't paying attention. I was just like, what? Like everybody just, it was funny. But
Wow. And then how did
yeah.
that conversation go, like, immediately thereafter?
Um, the conversation, I don't remember. I was just like,
No.
I was shocked, but I'm like, I didn't know I had a brother. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah, um, I was adopted. Like, I guess I'm your brother. And then he's like, Mom wants to talk to you. And I'm like, all right.
So before we speak on the transition from Wisconsin to LA and how your adopted parents tie into that, as well as your biological mother, knowing now that you were in contact with her prior to moving to LA.
Mhm.
18 is a crazy age for this to happen. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I had wanted it to happen at 18, but
Wow.
I wasn't doing anything to make it happen yet, and it just did, you know.
That's wow. Okay.
hmm
So, of course, I have to ask, and I know plenty of folks are wondering, as a black man, period.
hmm hmm
And tell me what your biological ethnic background is.
Oh, my ethnic background is it's black and white. I got some Irish and German in there, and
Hmm.
some Nigerian and Cameroonian, and
That's
all
right.
the
You did. I think I
yeah,
don't remember if you sent it to me or if you posted it, but either way, I do recall seeing all of
yeah.
your percentages. Yes.
Hmm.
Um,
According to
so
Ancestry.com.
right, right, right. According to
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
A disclaimer: if I'm wrong, it's on y'all. Ancestry.com.
yeah, yeah. They're
Um,
constantly updating the DNA, the technology, so it could
right.
it's changed
Exactly.
before. It has changed. It went
This is right.
Nigerian went from 1% to 16%, so or something like that. Yeah,
That's a huge
it was a
change.
big jump, but it was like early on, it was like 1%. We're like, they're
Yeah.
updating their technology. So
Gotcha. Right. So
yeah.
let me ask this in the most fluent and fluid and safest way. Do you think or do you know that society perceives you as a black man? Is that how you identify yourself? When you check the stupid boxes that I hate, by the way, checking the
Hmm.
boxes, is this how you identify yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been apparent to me,
Right.
through different experiences in my life that I am a black man and that people see me
Right.
as such.
So I'm glad that
Um,
you worded it that way. How have your adopted parents um, navigated those experiences?
um, I don't know that they have. I think that I I don't you know, I feel like they just loved me the best way they could.
Right,
You
right.
know, it was never necessarily about race.
Yeah.
They didn't really take the time to educate me on the different on like segregation or slavery or any of that stuff, or
Yeah.
or what it's meant, what it means to be black in America, because they were
Right.
kind of oblivious to it. They didn't know. They grew up in
Right.
Wisconsin around all these white people. They weren't around any black people like
Yeah.
really their whole lives. So, um, or very few, if any.
Right.
So,
So,
yeah, I mean, I just kind of had to figure it out by
right.
myself.
Right, right. And that's my next question. While I'm scared to ask, I have to ask, what did teach you? How did life teach you outside of the obvious textbook in school esque things?
Yeah, I mean, there was I dealt with some racism in high school, and
Yeah.
some it wasn't like a lot of it wasn't like crazy or like
Right.
crazy bullying or life threatening. There's just like people, would make fun of me because I was different. Like kids would make fun of me because I was different, my skin was different. It just showed how ignorant they were, because like this one little kid called me China boy, and because that's the only other ethnicity that he knew apparently.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, he was like in kindergarten and I was in first grade. I'm just like, all right.
No.
I'm like, I'm not Chinese. It's so funny to think about. I'm like,
That's hilarious.
I know,
I'm not
but
Chinese.
yeah,
Okay.
the racism got worse from that on. Like in high school, there's this one kid that threatened, made like a threat with a noose, and I'm just like, you
Hmm.
know. It's just apparent, like nobody, my friends didn't necessarily like see me as, not necessarily they didn't see me as black, but they would forget sometimes, and
Right.
they would say black jokes around me, and then they realize I was right there and they're like, oh, whoops, like forgot.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely saw racism in my school, but I was always nice to everybody, so there really wasn't any
Yeah.
reason, for them to be racist against me. But there was this one kid named DeAndre. I
Mm-hmm.
remember he was from Chicago. He was a couple of years younger than me. He was dark skinned, and there was like this. He became really close friends with this white girl, and they went to prom together. It was cute, but there was a lot of racism towards him.
Mm-hmm.
So from a kid that a lot of people made fun of, that I would defend, because I'm like,
Right.
I would defend this other kid that, like, people would make fun of him and bully him, and I'm just like, you know, that's not cool. Like I didn't see him do anything wrong ever.
Right.
But then
Right.
on Facebook, like he was saying all these outlandish racist like comments, like threats and all these, crazy things against this little black kid, and like at school, like I remember when we were leaving the parking lot, he would like flick me off, and I'm just like, all right, but you know, uh, so I did experience racism in school. There's this other kid that said that I would grow up to sell drugs. Um, yeah, he's like, I'm gonna be successful and you're gonna be selling drugs. I'm like, okay.
Where is this kid now?
I don't
Something
know.
tells me that kid is successfully selling drugs. But
He's done.
anyway.
I think he's done a lot, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But never have,
Right.
never done drugs, never sold drugs,
Right.
never any of that. So just followed my
It's
path
terrible.
to where God's gotten me up until now. So
Yeah.
I'm blessed.
Were your parents aware of the stories that you just shared? Although they sound like, small instances, and
Mhm.
like you said, there were no life-threatening experiences and things like that. Had you ever told your parents about things like this happening?
I had, yeah, they knew and they were upset about it. Um, but it was more so of, these are just like isolated incidences, and
Yeah.
this is a bad kid, or this is like a racist kid, and that's messed up. They don't tolerate hate, but it's now that we're dealing with all the things you know, in the
Yeah.
world and the social climate with everything that's happened in the last few years. Um, it's shown a lot of different sides of racism, not just the hate,
Right.
not just the blatant hate. It's just, belittling us and you know, the feel or like the notion that black people aren't as intelligent or they're not as, good. It doesn't necessarily have to be hate, but it's just that, you know, that notion that we're not as smart, we're not as good, we're not
Right.
as successful and
Right.
things like that. So
And depriving us from certain opportunities because of that preconceived notion, that false preconceived notion. Yeah.
exactly.
So I'd like to use this as a segue
Hmm.
to the fact that it seems as though love is literally seeping out of your pores every minute of every day. Have you heard that about yourself before? Do people express this?
Mm. I I haven't heard it told to me very often, but I know it to be true about myself.
Amen.
I Yes,
Amen.
amen. Yeah. So I mean I feel that from me. Like I know that about myself, and I love that about myself.
Yes.
I love love. I love, loving on people and making people feel good about themselves. And you too, like, and you are that person as well. And that's why I feel like we're definitely
Do not make this about me.
no, but I have to give you those props because I feel like, that's why I love you so much because I feel like you reciprocate that same energy, and I'm like, man, like nobody says these things about me, but like I feel that way about so many black people.
Yes,
So,
yes.
mm,
I can't tell you how happy that makes my heart to know that you are hearing it
yes.
for you, about you, and for you. And I resonate with that statement very much
Mm,
so. I had a conversation with a friend just recently. Like, the way that I love humans, the way that I love life,
yeah.
the way that spirits and the world is so vivid to me. I see it. Like every color is constantly, every color of a person or of a life experience is constantly popping out at me like it's this vibrant three-dimensional thing.
Mm,
And when becoming a photographer or a videographer, I started to realize I am doing this because of the way that I see and value people and life. But unfortunately, there was a flip side to that. It's like, wait, does anybody else see it this way? Does anybody else see me this way? Anybody? No? Okay, it's okay. I'm gonna just take these pictures. I'm just gonna show you in real time and just wait for you to see the video or the picture that I tried to use to capture this thing the way that I feel it and the way that I see it. So like I just got caught up in, it was like one conversation I had with a friend. I got caught up in that, wow, this is a family function with every single one of my family members. My heart, if it could explode with the amount of love that I have for my family. So I'm watching these videos and I'm looking at these pictures and I'm like, wait, I'm not in any of them. Not in a way that makes me sad, but in a way where it's just like, does anyone see it that same way? Is anyone looking at this picture full of these beautiful spirits and saying, oh shoot, there's another beautiful spirit missing. Darn it, Ava was the one behind the camera. She wasn't in the camera. I get caught up in that, like, I don't know. That was totally a tangent. I love that we reciprocate and reflect this thing that it's clear that we both share.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask, while we're slowly but surely moving away from childhood experiences or experiences as an adopted son,
Yeah.
did your parents raise you spiritually or religiously? Did they reinforce? I mean, it's clear, you have said multiple times how love is their movement, how love is their, you know, the factor that they truly infused into raising you. It shows. And they did yo, mom and dad, y'all did a beautiful job, okay? All right, I want them to hear it because it's so real. And I think as a person that just loves understanding people or being attentive to people the way that I do, I definitely don't just look at and converse with Zachariah Schmitt. I absolutely, part of the reason we're having this interview right now, I'd love to see what the roots are beneath this beautiful tree that is you. And your adoptive parents, they are like those first biggest roots. They have put in the most work. So to see how loving you are, to see how much love and beauty you exude, it's like, yo, what did your parents do, dude? I want to know. I want to know.
First of all, you're a poet. Like, you speak so beautifully.
You made it about me again. I got to cover the camera. No,
I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But yeah, as far as the religious aspect, I mean, I grew up Catholic. I mean, I went to church. I went to church a lot. I wouldn't say every single Sunday, but I went to church a lot as a kid. But I just felt like with the Catholic Church, it wasn't bringing me to my full potential spiritually. So after I got confirmed, you know, my parents said, like, you can do whatever you want now. Like,
wow,
you go to church, you don't have to go to church. And there was times I would go to church on my own, the Catholic church, but I started going to this other church that my friend went to. He went to with his girlfriend, and then I met a girl, and he's like, oh, she goes to the church that we go to. I'm like, oh, cool. So I started going to that church, and you know, it opened me up a lot more. It was a Pentecostal church, and
nice.
And I started learning, you know, how to have a relationship with Jesus rather than just, you know, a religion. So you know, and I knew the things about God, because I knew that, you know, he was merciful and that he loves us, and I held on to that because love is my language. Like, I understand love. So but in Catholic Church, what they teach and like how they're so, like, you know, it's very Old Testament. So like what they were teaching in the church, certain things just didn't line up with what I knew was love.
Right.
So I was just searching for they say God is love. What does that mean? And how do I experience the most of what kind of love God has to offer? Wow. So, you know, I started going to this Pentecostal church. It taught me a lot more. Then I started going to this non-denominational church years later. And I just, you know, I kind of got in the community a little bit and started going to group things and just learning more about God. And like, you know, in 2015, early 2015, I just had like such a great relationship with God. And I was just in a really, really good place spiritually. And I you know, I felt like I'd been there for a while, but also like I just had my own personal relationship with God. I didn't feel like, for a long time, I didn't feel like I had to go to church for that relationship. I just felt like, you know, you know, I understood who God was. And, you know, when I started getting more into the community of it, like in 2015 and going to these different like little retreat things or whatever. It just brought me to a place of just knowing that I'm good and that the decision that I want to make with going to LA, I
Mm.
needed this before I could come out here, and I
Wow.
felt like it was just when I left, it was time, and I felt the
Wow.
peace. I felt, like I said before, I felt that peace about it.
Mm.
But yeah, I had always been. I feel like I've been spiritually hungry, um, for my whole life, really.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
And the way that you explained that, the word trust came to mind as you
mm,
were explaining. You used the word relationship. And
hmm
when anyone thinks of a relationship, well, what are the key factors of a successful
right,
relationship?
right,
Trust. So
trust.
to turn inward and establish this spiritual relationship with God, you could trust that He was going to take care of you, guide you,
hmm
lead you, communicate with you however you saw fit, so that you continue to put your trust in Him. He was also trusting you to make decisions that were aligned with the path that He was putting before you. That's just wow.
Yeah,
Wow. I hear
trust.
you.
Exactly. And well, it's funny whenever anybody asks me for advice about moving to LA, they're like, what advice do you have to give me? And I just I'm like
Let me get my pen out.
I'm winging it, dude. Like I'm just like trust God.
Wow.
That's the only advice I really give them. Like trust God with everything. With
Mm,
everything. He'll always
mm.
provide for you, no matter what, and he'll always guide you in the right direction. So
Yes.
trust God.
So
That's my
this may
advice.
sound like, yeah, this may sound like an abstract question. I'm going to try to put it together the best I can.
Okay.
Uh, Moments. Are there any moments that truly stand out where you caught yourself in, I don't know, but I trust you? What are there specific stories that you could tell to just be like, yeah, no, there was this, aside from the obvious, like, all right, I'm changing my life, I'm uprooting, I'm going to LA. Are there
Mhm.
more intricate or detailed exchanges and experiences that you've had where you're just like, yeah, yeah, I absolutely had to put my trust in him?
I mean, I feel like my level of trust with God is like I don't even when I know that it's God, I don't even question it. Like
Mm.
like I just do it. I just move. I'm just obedient in that way. But there was never like a really moment, but there was definitely times where I couldn't pay my rent, and then all of a sudden the money would just drop like out of the
Wow.
sky, basically, and I would just have the right amount so that I wouldn't be homeless. Like
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah. And as far as my living situations go, yeah, there were times that like I was not in a place where I could really pay rent, and I moved in
Yeah.
with my friend that they weren't paying rent at their place. It was just like a really like very unique like situation where they didn't have to pay rent, and
Right.
they're like, we could use a roommate, to deal with like to help with the utilities and whatever. Uh, so I moved in there, and I just had to pay a utility bill every month,
Mm.
and that helped me out for a while
Yeah.
until I could get, a new spot. So yeah, he's always provided, always, always. Like no matter like when I lost my car, like he got me a
Yeah.
place to stay because I couldn't drive and do Uber and Lyft or any of that stuff. So um or Postmates or anything. So
Mm.
yeah, that's when like my friend called and asked me how I was doing, and she's like, you could stay here. We need some help with this and that. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
like definitely, because I had really nowhere else to go at that point.
Right.
So it was
So,
just perfect.
so check it out.
Hmm
You said when people ask me for advice about moving to LA, I just say
hmm
like trust God. He won't let you down, etc.
hmm hmm
I just want to take this moment to say I truly love this podcast. I love the opportunity to have conversations like this, and I thank you for being a part once again because your willingness is allowing me to do something that I enjoy so much. So, the question that was given to me, I'm very grateful for. When people ask you for advice to move to LA, you say trust God.
Hmm.
If I were to ask Zachariah Schmitt for advice on establishing a relationship with God, what advice would he give? How does someone start? How does someone get to this place spiritually?
Mm. Uh, I would just say, like, ask God for a relationship with Him,
Mm,
and I mean, and let Him guide you. I feel like there's just, because not every church is for everybody. Not
right.
every church is going to lead you to a relationship with God. And I feel like you just have to be spiritually open. You have to put that out there. You
Mm,
have to, you have
mm-hmm.
to, you have to speak it. You have to say, I want God, I want a relationship with you. And let it come in the way that it comes because God's listening.
Yeah.
He's going to make it happen. So he's going to bring people into your life. He's going to bring a community into your life. He's going to bring somebody into your life to show you how to have your own personal relationship
Mm,
with God. So I would say just be open. Don't expect God to be a genie and just,
right.
grant your wishes and just appear out of thin air and materialize and
Yeah.
like make
Doesn't work
miracles
that
happen.
way.
Just like, it really doesn't work that way. It's like because people really try to test God and be like, God, if you're real, let me lift a car or something like ridiculous. It's like it's not
Right.
it doesn't work that way. So um I would just say stay in prayer, um, stay in belief and knowing that God is listening and um,
Hmm.
be patient and be open. You have to truly be open. So open your heart and um, yeah, be patient and listen, be obedient. Because when you feel that strong urge to do something, that strong feeling that you're supposed to do something, listen to that feeling and
Yeah.
do it. You know,
Right.
it might take you out of your comfort zone, but it's there for a reason. So listen to
Right.
that
Right.
feeling.
Now, is there a defining moment for you um, where it was clear to you that the relationship had begun? After you voiced that it was something you desired, after you did open your spirit and believe that the relationship was going to continue to develop and get stronger. Are there defining moments for you where you know that he was just like, hey, hey, taps you on the shoulder, like, hey, I'm here, I got you? Does anything come to mind?
Mm. I mean, when I went to the Pentecostal church, I caught the Holy Ghost for the first time. It
Mm,
was interesting. Like, I don't know if that was the moment.
mm-hmm.
I f- I don't I actually don't think that was the moment, but um it also got me connected with a bunch of other believers, and it kind
Yeah,
of just took me because the Pentecostal church is interesting sometimes, like the way that they like when you get the Holy Ghost for the first time. Um, I feel like they kind of convince you that you got the Holy Ghost because they're telling you that you did, and they're like
right,
all around you. It's like a peer pressure thing sometimes.
right, right.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, I feel like me just I'm trying to think of an an exact moment because I feel like there has been because I've always known that God was there my whole
Yeah,
life, growing up
mm-hmm.
Catholic, and I knew that I could always talk to God.
Yeah.
So I'd always just kind of talk to God, and that, there's times where my prayers were answered. I remember this time my dog ran away, and
Mm,
yeah, my dog had run away, and I was just praying and praying and praying. I didn't think we were gonna find him because I thought he was just long gone,
right.
and I didn't think we were gonna find him. And and I like we were looking
Yeah.
everywhere, and we lived in the country. Like he could have been anywhere in the
It could have
woods.
been
Like
miles and
he could have
miles
been miles
away.
away. Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
So it's crazy. You turn his back for 5 minutes with that dog, he's a mile away. It's crazy. It was crazy.
yeah.
But I remember just praying and praying and praying and praying that we would find him, and I was crying, and my dad like came back like 4 hours later, um, found him, uh, brought him back
Wow.
home, and he came in and told me that he found him, and everything was good and he was okay. And I remember being so relieved, and I just knew that prayer worked at that time. And there's so many instances throughout my life, and I felt like I've had a relationship with God, even though the Catholic Church hadn't really taught me how to have a
Right.
relationship with God. But um, I've always felt pretty close to God, and I always felt like I knew God when, like, even in the Catholic Church, I felt like I knew God better than a lot of people did.
Mm,
You know?
that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Well, thank you for that rundown. I feel like everything we've talked about thus far has been a really great description of the things that have led you to the lovely gentleman that I have sitting next to me, imaginary next to me
Right.
today. Virtually next to me, I should have said. you,
Right.
you had to practice. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
right
figure it
there.
out. Right. Right.
Right there. Um, I love having more insight. And, this is, man. So I came out to LA when I was 25, and that was a fly by night trip. I was taking all these classes, and then my best friend gets there. We climbed up to the Hollywood sign. We were all over the place. But it's clear that you are the type of spirit that I wish I had or did spend more time just getting to know and hanging out with and things like that. And I feel like that is happening now and has happened, more recently. I love that you said last time I spoke, you're like, so wait, why don't we do this more often? Great question. Glad you asked. We'll make
Right.
sure that it happens more often. But
Hmm.
I say that to say, to dive deeper, to have a more intricate understanding of why you are evidently so amazing. I see it. Everyone else sees it. It's really a pleasure. I
Mm.
love having these background details and just being able to give your family, your parents, the kudos that they deserve,
Yeah.
and to kind of unveil and peel back the layers of your spirituality, because it is clear that you are led by it.
Mm. Thank
So
you. That's really the highest
yes,
compliment.
it's clear, very clear. Oh my
Mm.
goodness, are you kidding?
Thank you. Thank you so
It's
much.
beautiful. So now you're in LA.
Hmm.
When did you start actively searching for your biological father?
I started actively searching for my biological father about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Um, I decided to get the ancestry.com DNA kit after I met my mom. She told me more about my father, which, she told me why she didn't really know him and why she kind of lost contact with him. I'm the product of a one night stand baby. So,
Mm,
my mom lost contact with my dad, um, after I was conceived. So the only thing that she could tell me is what she remembered from that night, which was his name and his birthday. And the reason that she remembers his birthday is because they have the same birthday.
mm,
Like, so she remembered looking at his ID because she didn't believe him. She didn't believe that their birthday was the same. Sure enough, they have the same birthday. She remembered his first name, but not his last name.
yeah,
So I had those two things to go off of. So I
yeah.
did the DNA test, and I got the results back like a month later, and I started reaching out to these DNA matches. I'm like, okay, so now I have DNA matches. Like they're matching me up with everybody in my bloodline that have taken the DNA test with Ancestry.com.
Right.
So I started reaching out to people and like, hey, this is what I know about my dad. I'm trying to find him. Can you help me out? And some people were asking their relatives and asking around, was like, hey, do you know him? And I had a couple people say that they knew my dad's name is Bobby.
Yeah.
They said like that's his name on his birth certificate. It's Bobby. Um,
Right. Not Robert.
so right, not Robert, Bobby. So yeah, there's some relatives that were like, yeah, we know Bobby in Indiana or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. That could be it. They're like, I don't know what his birthday is, but it ended up that wasn't him. Um, but yeah, so I had reached out and I kept in contact with a couple of my cousins, over Facebook, and some of them I call every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with my cousin, Deborah, about a month and a half ago, like 2 months
Yeah.
ago.
Okay,
And
freeze. Wait.
hmm
I have the whole timeline in my brain. I was
uh-huh.
asking the years. So you started actively searching for your father in about 2019, which means that you
hmm
went out on a limb in 2015 and you had about 4 years of Los Angeles adventure and success. So
Yeah.
prior to what you are about to share, I'd like to
Mhm.
move chronologically.
Yeah.
Tell me about Zachariah in different ways that he has grown because of this move to LA, different things that he has experienced because of this move to LA. How did those 4 years go before we get to like the most incredible development in your life, regardless of where you live? Um,
Right.
because there's so much growth to come up. I mean, it's one, you uprooted your whole life. This is a huge
Yeah.
lifestyle change for you. But
hmm
when it comes to pursuing an acting career, you're singing, you're dancing. Tell me about those first 4 years in LA and how they led you to become who you are today.
All right, so boom. So I get to LA, right? No, okay. So me and my best friend, we took a road trip to LA together.
Yeah.
So he ended up flying back. But I got to LA, uh, and like it was like the third day in LA. I end up on a movie set. uh,
There it is, folks, and that's
yeah,
it. So go ahead,
and that's it. Then
2021.
no, yeah, no. So so there's this. I was following somebody on Instagram, and she's like, "We need people for this movie," and I'm like, "Well, I'm in LA now. What's the details?" And she hit me
Boom.
up, and she was
What did
like,
that
"Here,
feel like, Zach? What did that feel like to have been there for 3 days and all of a sudden it's like, well, you're on a movie set now?
right." It was crazy. My best friend was with me. He didn't believe me. I'm like, "Hey," he was like half asleep. It was like 9:30. We had just been, we'd been driving, and like we went to the beach and we went surfing the day before or whatever. And he was like passed out, and I'm like, "Hey, wake up." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "We're gonna be in a movie tomorrow." He's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "We're gonna be in a movie tomorrow. We gotta wake up at this time. Just like, I'll wake you up." He's like, "All right, whatever." So in the morning, I'm like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember this, but we can be in a movie today. Like, literally, let's go." I gave him all the information. He's like, "Are you sure? Is this like a real thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like real
Is it a
skeptical.
scam?
He's yeah. Is it a scam? I'm like, the pay is $50. It's not like it's not a scam. Like it's like it only it's a and like we're extras in a movie. It's not a scam. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's like the worst scam in history, if anything. Like we don't have to pay. They're gonna pay us
Right.
$50. But I'm like, yeah, let's go. And we were in Palos Verdes, so we had to drive all the way to Van Nuys to this set. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So and before I moved to LA, I'd been looking for a job, right? My friend, my Facebook friend Kayla, she had just moved to LA like a couple months prior from Arizona. She's like, "Hey, if you're still looking for a job, I'm the bar manager at this restaurant in Hollywood. I could get you a job." I'm like, "All right, bet, cool." So I just say that to say the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So I met. So we're on set. We're waiting to get started. Like breakfast is getting made and everything. We sat down with some other extras at this table, and there's this guy named Greg. And he was, I'm like, "How long you been acting? What are you doing now?" He's like, "Oh, I don't usually do background, but I'm doing this for for like the people that own the restaurant I work at as a favor." I'm like, "Okay, that's what's up." I'm like, "What restaurant is this?" He's like, "Oh, it's this like Asian fusion restaurant. Like a lot of celebrities come in and stuff." I'm like, "Oh, that's what's up. That's really cool." And he's like telling me stories about these different celebrities and whatnot.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, "Who's in it?" I'm like, "What is this movie? Like, who's in it?" He's like, "Oh, I think Columbus Short is starring in the movie." I'm like, "What?" Columbus Short is like, you know, like Stomp the Yard is my
Like
favorite dance
Stomp the
movie.
Yard,
Yeah, I'm like,
Columbus
Stomp.
Short.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Oh shoot!" I'm like, "That's my favorite dance movie." I'm like, "This is crazy." Like,
Right.
out of all the people. to like be on a movie set with my third day in
Yep.
LA. This is pretty dope. So yeah, we're in this bus scene, and we're like riding around Van Nuys in this bus. Uh, it's supposed to be based in Philly, actually.
Oh, word.
The movie was true to the game. That was the
Oh, okay,
movie.
got it, got it, got it. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it, but
Nope. But I
but
remember Columbus Short starring in True to the Game. I do recall this.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all on the bus. It's Columbus Short and Erica Peoples and my friend who had to cut out of the movie because he looked in the camera too many times. Uh, so funny. He was
Of
the only, I
course,
think he was
there's
the only,
always one.
he was the only white boy on the bus. It was great. But yeah, like I got to like talk to Columbus and tell him that like, Stomp the Yard was my favorite dance movie and everything.
Wow.
They had me stand in for him. And they're like, you know what, you kind of look like Columbus. Like you could
You
be his brother.
do.
Yeah, they're like, you could be
You
his brother.
can.
Like recently, like the newest headshots I took, I'm like, yo, I look like Columbus. But
You
they're
do
like,
though. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So they're like, you could be his brother. It's like, why don't you stand in for him? I'm like, all right, cool. Like, so I stood in for Columbus in
Wow.
a couple scenes. But yeah, I got to meet him, and then Erica Peoples, she's she was great. She's on All American now, uh,
Yeah.
and she did True to the Game too, starred in that. But we became cool actually. We stayed in touch. We became friends.
Yes.
And also
Ew.
and also um, the the boyfriend of the girl that I was following on Instagram who got me the opportunity, he is Malcolm David Kelly, who played young Antoine Fisher in Antoine Fisher.
Wow.
So like a full circle thing. I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
Full
Like,
circle thing.
yeah, yeah. So Antoine Fisher,
Amazing.
yeah, little Antoine Fisher. So we took a picture
Now, if
together.
this is not a testament of your relationship with God, for God to just be like, all right, not only did you
He's like,
trust
go
me,
now.
yep,
Yeah.
not only did you trust me, you went when
hmm
I said to go, and
hmm
now I'm going to show you what is to be reaped because of that. So here's a
Exactly.
movie set for you to be on 3 days later. Here's
hmm
the lead actor that you admire because of other films that he's in. Here's the
hmm
relationship with Erica Peoples. Here's you
hmm
standing in for this lead actor. Like, you
hmm
could have just sat in the butt seat, the bus seat, the bus seat. You could have just sat in the bus seat the whole time and been
hmm
absolutely blessed and satisfied. But no,
hmm
no, God was like, nah, you deserve some whipped cream and a cherry on this joint.
He's like, let me show you what it means what happens when you're obedient. So yeah,
Yo,
exactly.
amazing.
So fast forward to a couple days later, because I took a picture with the cast. I didn't take a picture with Columbus that day, but with
Yes.
Erica and Malcolm. So fast forward to like a week later, um, I went and interviewed for the restaurant job
Yes.
that my friend Kayla, who I had never met at the time, well, I had met because we like had met up and
Mhm.
for the first time
Mhm.
and stuff, and she's like, yeah, come interview for the restaurant, I'll get you the job. I'm like, all right, cool. So I
Mhm.
did. I got there first day. I got hired. First day, I was meeting people, and I talked to the bartender. His name is Jarrett, and and he asked me for my Instagram. So he goes on my Instagram. He's looking through the pictures. He's like, "Oh, how you know Malcolm?" And
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, I was on set with Malcolm like the other like last week."
Small
He's like,
world.
"Oh, he's like, you know that his girlfriend's parents own this restaurant, right?" And I was like, "What? No." I'm like, wait. So,
Wow.
so wait, does Greg work here? He's like, yeah, Greg works here. He's like, how you know Greg? And like, so it was like a whole like this
Oh
was
my
meant
gosh.
to happen. Like this was 100%
Absolutely.
meant to happen. All of this, I was meant
Wow.
to meet these people and be in with this group of people for some reason.
Amazing.
So
For
that
all of the reason.
yeah, so that blew my mind, right? And then like not too long after that, I was working there for, I don't know, I probably only worked there for like 4 months. Um,
Mhm.
but but Columbus came in one night and the restaurant was pretty much empty. So me and him talked, and then like on my break, I went up, to the like there's this upstairs area on my break. And Columbus was up there. He was like listening to his music, and I didn't know he made music at the time. But I'm like, "Is this you?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you made music." He's like, "Yeah, that's like all I do." I'm like, "Oh," like I didn't know.
I
Uh,
had no idea.
yeah, like I had no idea. But yeah, so we got
Oh
to talk,
wow.
and he's like, and he just started like, he's like, "You remind me of me when I was your age." Like, he's like, "You know what?" He's like, "I kind of like this kid." Like I'm like, "Yeah, I dance, I sing, I act, I do all that stuff." It's like, I'm like, "So yeah, Stomp the Arts was my shit," you know? And
Wow.
he's like,
Mm.
"Wow." So we just talked
Did he
about a
ask
whole
you to
bunch of stuff.
sing for him? Did you sing for him?
Yeah, actually, the funny thing is, he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What are you doing after work?" And I'm like, "I don't have any plans." He's like, "Why don't you come?" He's like, "Hit me up." He's like, he gave me his number. He's like, "Hit me up after you get off." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I did, and he gives me an address. He's like, "Come to the studio." He's recording a
Is this a
song.
scam? Was this a scam?
This is a scam. Yeah, no. He's like, "Come to the studio," and I'm like, "All right, cool." So I come to the studio, and he's in there recording, some songs for his album, and he has me jump on some background track. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
That's so super cute because you look and feel and sound so much like him overall. So like, that's
Yeah,
so neat.
yeah, yeah.
So that was 3 days after you freaking got there. So if we want to assume how the rest of the story goes for
Mm.
the rest of the 4 years, I feel like because of duality, I must ask, what are some of the hardships that you've had to overcome
Oh man.
on in this LA journey?
Whew. Man. Just man, trying to make ends meet, and
Yeah.
having, I've never been the type of person that likes having a 9 to 5. So trying to just hustle and drive,
Yeah.
and uh I had a lot of issues with my car, breaking down, and different things, needing new tires all the time because I was driving constantly. That was
Mm.
really expensive. But yeah, living situations. I lived in a hostel when I first moved out there.
Wow.
It was a long-term hostel. I lived in there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the best situation. Uh, I had to share my
But
room
it
with
was
four
all
with
worth
three
it.
other people. It was all worth it, yeah. But
Mm.
but I didn't like having roommates like that, like just being in the same room with people. So I was gone a lot. I was
Right.
not home a lot. I was just basically there for a bed and a shower and that stuff. So it wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable. In fact,
Right.
it's like I never told my parents this because I didn't want them to worry. But like I lived in my car for a little
Uh
while. Yeah, I
oh.
never. Yeah,
Is this going to be revealed to them? Do you want me to cut this part out of the interview?
maybe I don't know, but I
I
don't know.
can
It,
if
it
you
would be
want.
it would be revealed to them. Yeah, they would. It's like I did live in my car for a little while. I never told them because I didn't want
Wow.
them to worry. Because I mean, it's just I preferred that to living in the hostel. Like I told them I was living in this terrible situation.
Wow. Yeah.
But I'm just like at this point I would rather live in my car because I don't have to pay rent, and like rent was way too expensive in this place, and it was just
Yeah.
like I would much rather just live in my car because at least I have privacy in my car. I don't
Yeah.
have a bunch of people around, and I can be wherever I want. I don't have to live in South Central. I can live in Burbank, or somewhere
Wow.
that's
That's
not.
deep.
Yeah,
That's deep. So your car was an RV for all intensive purposes.
pretty much, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't a big car either, but
Right.
it
Right.
was a Chevy Cruze.
I remember
Hmm.
you and I did converse on the phone at one
Yeah.
point while you were living in your car. I recall.
Hmm.
And what I
Yeah.
recall about that conversation is that you did not sound down about that at all.
I wasn't. I
You
was
were
actually. I was
still
legit happy. Like I was so much happier living in my car than I was at that hostel. Like I was just
right.
like, and yeah, I was completely happy. And I don't.
Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I
Perspective.
I was so grateful to have a car and just
Yes.
like living in my car. I would wake up with a smile on my face and thank God every
Yes.
day. Like, and
Did y'all
I
hear
didn't.
that?
and I didn't tell my parents because they're more practical than me, and they're like, move back home, and I'm like, I would never.
And you're like, I'm not doing that.
It's like
I'm not doing
I'm
that.
not gonna do that.
So I'm glad you said that. Had
Yeah.
you told your parents, they would have said move back home. I feel like I
Hmm.
have to leave this part of the conversation, and I don't know. We'll talk about it later.
No,
Had you
you can
told your
leave it in.
parents,
It's
okay.
fine.
Had you told your parents, they would have said
Yeah.
move back home. Had you
Hmm.
moved back home, fill in the blank, please. Had you
Right.
moved back home, blank would not have happened.
Had I moved back home, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. Period. Like there's a lot of things that have happened, for me, but I mean, that's just too much. I just wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have been happy moving. And my happiness and my peace is the most important thing to me.
Amen.
So really that's it. Like I prioritize happiness and peace and joy over everything.
Yes.
And going back home to a place that doesn't have any opportunity for me, really, I would be depressed.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
prior to what has happened within the last 6 to 8 weeks or so that we're about to get to,
Hmm.
prior to your most recent, most joyful experience,
Hmm.
what pops into your mind immediately without thinking about it as the most joyous moment since living in LA?
Most joyous moment since living in LA. Gosh, there's so many things.
Oh,
There's
that's beautiful. I was just
just
wondering
so.
if you were going to say anything about Stevie Wonder, that's all. But no big
Oh
deal if
my
you
gosh.
don't. No, I'm
Look,
kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
I wish I could have met Stevie Wonder. I'm going to meet Stevie Wonder. Let's just put,
Oh, yes, you
let's,
are.
let's say that. I'm going to meet Stevie Wonder. I did meet his daughter. That was pretty great.
Unreal.
But yeah, and I did go to his concert. It wasn't the first concert of his that I went to. I went
Mhm.
to Stevie Wonder's House of Toys a few years ago in December, and that was amazing. But I felt like the concert that I went to in Minneapolis with my mom 6 years ago now, was
Yeah.
even better. So that was an amazing experience. But my most joyous
What was
experience.
the first one that was like, psh, don't forget about this one. Don't think about, like, make sure you think about this
Oof,
one. Make sure you mention this one. Nothing just like popped in?
I don't know. I feel like there's just so many. Like honestly, I've met so many amazing people.
You're so blessed. You're so blessed.
I've done a lot of things that I'm just like I've just I count my blessings. There's a lot of
Yeah,
them. There's nothing that necessarily is the tops yet. Like
I
everything's
understand.
just like I've had a lot of really great experiences. You know what? I did get to sing a duet with Jordan Sparks. That was pretty incredible. Like that
That
was pretty great.
sounds like such a joyful moment.
Yeah, that was
What
amazing.
song? What song did you guys do?
We did A Whole New World from Aladdin.
Oh,
Karaoke. We
stop!
sang karaoke together. It was amazing.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was
Y'all,
great.
please hear his voice. Are you gonna bless us with some singing
I
before
don't
we
know. I don't
go
know.
in?
I do need to warm up. I do need to warm up my
No, no,
vocals.
no worries, no worries. I was going to ask an actor question. Is there a favorite persona that you have
Mm.
to embody?
I feel like I want to be like in romantic comedies, but
Uh,
like really like I feel like that's my lane is like the
yes.
romantic side. Like
Oh
I've
my
always
God, I
been a
could
hopeless
see that.
romantic, but
Right.
I like Judd Apatow's like his brand of humor and in his romantic comedies. Like I don't want it to be cheesy. I want it to be like
Right.
legitimately hilarious. Like
Yes.
I want to be funny. Like
Yeah.
I want to be funny
It's
and
funny.
romantic.
Yeah, you read my mind because my question
Mhm.
was going to be like, what's the epitome of that role in your opinion that we can
Yeah.
all, go watch right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. So a serious romantic comedy.
Yes.
Got it.
No,
Got
a
it.
funny romantic comedy, a goofy one. Like a goofy romantic comedy, but like
But where the
not
love is
super.
real.
Yes, where the love is real, like a real romantic comedy, like not like just a cheesy,
Right.
super predictable, you
I'm
know.
trying to think what's okay. You know what just popped into my head?
What?
God, I love this man. P.S. I love you.
P.S. I
Very
love you.
serious
Uh-huh.
romantic comedy. It was
Okay.
funny. But
Is which one?
Gerard
Which one is
Butler,
that? Oh, with
This
Gerard
is
Butler
when, yes, this
when
is when
his
Gerard Butler passes away, but he knew that it was going to happen. And
okay,
instead
got
of
you.
telling her, he wrote letters and stuff leading up to
Yeah,
his
got it,
passing. And, it changed her life. And she would get all the letters each week and stuff like that.
got you.
So, that to me, it was a pretty serious film.
hmm
But
See,
Gerard Butler was.
I want to be like Paul Rudd in a romantic comedy.
You want to be the real guy. You want to be the
I
man's man that's in love.
Yeah, and funny and awkward.
I love
I feel like
Paul.
that's my vibe. It's like I'm funny and awkward and romantic at the same time.
But you're
And everything.
still so charming and you're smooth. Like you've got all the things combined.
Oh my
This is
gosh, you're too kind.
don't blush too hard. I see it. No, I'm kidding. I'm
You're
kidding. I'm
too
kidding.
kind. Yeah.
JK. But no,
Yeah.
for real. Okay, that makes total sense. You've
hmm
definitely got yourself pinned accurately.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
my
it's so fun to flip the pages, of your experience
yeah.
since stepping out on a limb and taking such a big risk and trusting God to lead you through this huge lifestyle shift. And that huge lifestyle shift, you have grown in confidence. You've grown in wisdom,
hmm
and you've only continued to be shaped and molded into this gentleman of God. I was going to say man of God, but you have to include the fact that, as you can all see, anyone watching and listening, this is a classy gentleman here, okay?
Thank
And
you.
I am not surprised that, regardless of whether or not you believe in karma, we'll use that word for all intensive purposes. It feels like God is just like, that huge piece of your identity, that thing that you decided 2 years ago that you want. I'm
hmm
not just going to give it to you because you want it. That's great. That's fine. That's dandy. But it feels like the only puzzle piece that was beginning to go missing. You've had a
hmm
successful start. Like you said, the amount of joyous moments, they are countless. So in the last 6 years, you have been able to dive into understanding yourself as an actor, understanding and loving yourself as a singer, as a dancer, as a photographer. You've moved through these last several years. You've just been blessed. I was gonna say you moved through smoothly, but we can't give you all the credit. This is about God guiding you and keeping you this entire time.
100%.
But then the one, like the biggest puzzle piece that was
hmm
missing
Yeah.
has been your biological father and his family and siblings that you did not know you had. And this is something that just occurred very, very recently.
Right.
Like,
Right.
tell me about that. But because of
Yeah.
this conversation, on a spiritual level, how full do you feel? How complete do you feel? What void has been filled? I can't
Well,
even imagine. I want to hear from you about it.
well, it still hasn't really sunk in yet.
Unreal.
Yeah, it's still kind of unreal because it's well, for one, well, let me go into the story.
Yeah.
Let
You
me
know
tell
what?
the
I'll
story.
even let me I'll give you a story mode. Here you go. Here
Right.
you go.
Yeah.
Not
Because
me.
I
Hold on. I clicked the wrong one. He's going into this story. Talk to
all
me.
right. So I probably I don't know 6 weeks ago I went on I was talking to my cousin who I met on Ancestry.com and she asked me, she's like, have you been on Ancestry lately? And I'm like, no, actually I haven't. I'm like, I should go and check to see if I have any new um, DNA matches. And so I went on and I saw that I did. I had two new DNA matches with the same last name. So I hit them both up and I told them what I knew about my father and I asked them to if they could help me out in finding him. And one of them hit me back and she said, um, I I know somebody. My aunt might know your father. She knows a Bobby with that same birthday, and she would like to talk to you. So she gave me her number, and I called her, and she gave me some more information. She said that he lives in Chicago, and that's where I was conceived. I know, my mom's from Chicago, so so I just um, I kind of I was nervous. I was nervous to kind of talk to her and know that this was my father, but she sent me a picture and I saw myself in him so much. She said, it's like your father's on the left. I could see there's three men in the picture. It was my father, his brother, and then some other man. I don't know who he was, but I could tell right away which one it was. It looked just like me, to me at least. I could
Mm.
see myself in him. I'm like, yeah, that's my father. I could see even the eyes, the cheeks, and it was so surreal because I'm like, I've never seen any
Wow.
of my family members really look that much like me, and it was just like I've gone 28
Mm.
years without really seeing a family resemblance, with the exception of, my mom and my brothers just a little bit. Like I don't.
Mm.
It's just little things because my mom is white and my brothers are white, so it's a little bit harder to see that resemblance. Um, but I saw it in my father. And I called my mom and my biological mother and told her and sent her the picture and she confirmed it. She's like, "Yep, that's him. No doubt, no doubt in my mind that that's him.
Wow.
He looks exactly the same. He looks just like he did when I met him."
Mm.
So we confirmed it, and my who I was talking to, my relative that I was talking to, who is my aunt, she told him and confirmed it with him, and he was kind of in denial at first, but he remembered um, that night, and he I didn't hear anything for like a few days, and then she messaged me and said, "Hey, your dad's ready to talk," and
Wow.
so he um so he gave me a call and we talked for a while, and it was crazy. I learned a lot. I learned that I had um, four more siblings. So I went from growing up an only child to having six siblings total. He has three daughters and one other son.
Mm.
So I have three brothers and three sisters. Um, yeah, so six siblings total. Crazy.
And where do you
Uh,
fall in terms of the I'll put you back. Where do you fall in the age brackets?
so I'm pretty much in the middle. My sister Monica and I are the same age. We're both 28. She's 6 months older than me, but we would be the middle children. And we have two older sisters, Stacy and Candace. And then younger brother is Bobby. He's 25.
Wow.
So right in the middle. Yeah. So I haven't met them all yet. I haven't met my dad yet. So it hasn't really sunk in yet. We haven't been face to face.
But you are going to Chicago when?
I don't have a date yet, but I'm
Okay,
going to
okay, okay. But
Chicago.
soon.
Yes, soon. I'm gonna try to go out there at the end of the month or the beginning of next month. We're
And you
gonna try.
did spend some time with two of your siblings when?
I did earlier this week or last week now. So Monday and Tuesday of last week. They came. They got here Sunday night. We met on Monday and hung out. We went to the beach. We went to Venice Beach. We hung out all day, and it was like the experience, like meeting them.
I
I didn't
feel
know
the
how I was
joy.
gonna react. Yeah, I didn't know how I was gonna react, but I met them and it just seemed so normal because we had talked before. Me and my brother BJ, we had talked. We
BJ.
had,
Oh,
yeah, Bobby Jr. Yeah,
I love this.
yeah. So me and BJ talked on the phone for like 5 hours the first night that they found
Amazing.
out about me. So they found out about me. They were shocked, but Monica, my sister, she was like, I need to talk to him. So she called me.
Wow.
We video chatted that night that he finally told them. He was nervous to tell them because he didn't know how
Yeah.
they would react because he was just finding out about me. So,
Right.
you know,
You are so blessed, Zachariah. This
yeah.
same or very similar scenario happens all the time, and
Hmm.
people may not receive, this information and this
Right.
experience the same way. So to know that you and BJ talked on the phone for 5 hours,
Hmm.
to know that Monica was like, "Who is he? I want to meet him. Where's he at?"
Right.
Like
Right.
that's almost the opposite of how some families react to this situation. So like
Hmm.
to say that you're blessed is an understatement. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
And then to bro, and then for you to already have this Wisconsin life full of love you know, and then to just have more love and family members piled onto you the year 2021 after everything we went through last year. Like,
Right.
what is your life?
Blessed.
And this is what I want to make clear to our viewers and listeners in case they don't realize it already. Like, it's clear that you are so deserving of all of this. I am not
Thank you.
surprised at all
Thank you
in
so much.
how steadfast you are and how much class and integrity and dignity you clearly have, you know, in the ways that you've been dedicated to both God and yourself. Of course this would happen for you.
Thank you so much. And I give God the glory because I knew, you know what? It's a promise. It's one of God's promises that I hold on to um the most because I know it's just such a testament of to how God loves us and how much God loves us is that, if we delight in the Lord, that all the desires of our heart will be met.
Amen.
And there was, you know, I don't I don't doubt many things. Like if it's something that I want, that I feel that I want in my heart, like I know that it's going to happen. So like even if nobody else believes in me or nobody else knows it, I believe that it's going to happen because
Yeah.
God said it was going to happen because I love God and I am unashamedly love God.
Right. And you delight
And
in him, like it says.
yeah, and I know that I will get the things that I I want in my heart because God put those desires in my heart. That's
Right.
not for no reason, you know. So
Mm.
so with this, there was a very, logically, there's a very good chance that my father wouldn't want to meet me. He wouldn't want anything to do with me. Who knows? Like he could have been dead. I don't I there's so many unknowns.
The
So many
possibilities,
unknowns,
yeah.
So the possibilities were endless, but I knew this is pretty much exactly how I foresaw this going. And he was so gracious and just like as caught off guard as he was by my existence. He was, you know, he had such a gracious reaction.
Mm.
He felt regret in the sense that he
Mm.
wished that he had known. There was nothing he could do about it, but he had
Right.
wished that he had known. He had wished that he had done things that he couldn't have known or foreseen that,
Right.
for him to be in my life longer. You know what I mean? So he basically told me like if I had known, like we would have taken you in instead of you being adopted. We would have taken
Mm.
you. I would have raised you like you would have been with us instead of,
Wow.
regardless of what him and his wife at the time were going through. He's like, we would have taken you in. So
Wow.
so that was I just felt like so much love when he told me that. I'm like, wow, like and it just made me
I'm
realize I'm
not
like my
about to
dad
cry.
it's
Sorry.
like no, it just made me realize
That's
like my
not
dad's
gonna
a
hurt.
really good man. You know what I mean? Like my father's a really good man. And I feel like I got a lot of things from him that I didn't, you know, it wasn't even not to say like my parents raised me very well.
Yes.
They raised me with love, they raised me very well. But there's certain things that I got there's certain things that I am that I didn't necessarily get from them that I just
Yeah.
like I'm like I am this way, but I'm like I wasn't necessarily taught that. That's just how I am. I'm just like
Yeah.
there's just certain things about me that I'm just like that's how I am. And I
Mm.
see where I got those things now. It's just really interesting to see. And like, yeah, my father he's a good man and he raised his
Wow.
his kids and you know he's divorced now. But yeah, he had four other kids by the same woman, and they're all pretty awesome, and they all love their dad, and it's just
Wow.
really, none of them have any kind of like any strange like different issues with him as far as I know. Like it just seems like a really good he's like a really good dad. So
This is beautiful. Thank you
yeah,
for sharing that beautiful story.
absolutely. So I'm excited to meet him. I haven't met him yet. I haven't, but we've talked on the phone, multiple times, and I just, I just look forward to it. I look forward to meeting my other two sisters, and I look forward to meeting him and whatever else family that I'm gonna meet when I'm in Chicago when I go out there.
Right.
But
Oh man.
it's been a
You are, oh
really
my
crazy
gosh, you're
development.
on such a beautiful journey.
Yeah,
Mm, mm,
truly,
mm.
truly. So I'm really blessed, and I'm happy to be on this journey. And on top of that, when my brother and sister Monica and BJ were out here,
Yes.
they have other cousins out here. They have two
Hmm.
cousins out here, and I met one of them last week,
Yep.
Nadia. Um, I think they go by Paris now, but yeah. So
Hmm.
Paris. So I know them as Paris. So Paris is
Hmm.
a model out here for Wilhelmina,
Nice.
and super dope. We like had a dope connection like right away.
Yeah.
So we actually hung out last night, like, and
Sweet.
Paris introduced me to their brother Tony. So
So
Tony,
more connections made already. I'm assuming that
yeah,
you're going to end up shooting with Paris sometime soon.
probably. I don't know. We'll see.
ASAP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully that'd be cool. Yeah, super dope model. And
Wow.
then Tony, he lives like 5 minutes away from me. Like,
Are you serious?
yeah, he lives around the corner. Like we all hung out last night. Like we went to get some drinks and some food last night, and they came over for a little bit, and now we're gonna go sing karaoke tonight. So
Oh,
yeah,
well,
it's
let me
gonna be.
get out of your way then, sir.
Oh
Wait,
no,
what
it's
time
gonna
is it? I
be.
don't even know.
It's early. It's early. It's only
Right,
like five
early for
something.
you. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, that's, look at, listen, so many open doors that clearly
Hmm.
deserve to be opened for you and
Yeah.
to you. Do
Hmm.
you have any favorite moments that, like, pop into your mind regarding the time that you spent with BJ? And it was BJ and Monica that were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have any favorite moments? Like, in my mind, did you finish each other's sentences? Did you order the same thing at a restaurant? Like, anything
Um,
magical like that?
they were BJ and Monica are really close. So they're
Yeah.
like they have the same they're like we have the same palate and everything. I'm like, that's crazy. They ordered they're a little bit more picky eaters than I am, but they had this burger. We went to the brunch and they had a
Mm-hmm.
burger. I had breakfast. I feel like I like breakfast food as my first meal of the day, like
Oh, yes.
almost no matter what.
Yes.
Like I feel weird if I don't eat breakfast food for my first meal.
You're
Like egg, I need
adorable.
eggs and bacon and or cereal, something
Yes.
breakfasty. I don't know. But
Breakfast E. Mm-hmm.
breakfasty, yeah, some breakfasty. But
Yes.
it's more so the music, our taste in music is the same. Like
More
we
Stevie
were
Wonder lovers?
yes, I got some video of us singing Stevie Wonder together. Like they were harmonizing and I was singing some Stevie. It was crazy. I'm like, this is so surreal. My brother Bobby, he really likes Bruno Mars a lot. That's his guy. Um,
Bruno's great.
yeah, but yeah, me and Bobby have a lot in common. Like he's a big movie buff, like bigger than me.
Mm.
Like I have like there's a piece of each of
Wow.
my siblings that I have like my sister Stacy, she plays the violin. I used to play the violin when I was younger. Um,
Wow.
Same with Monica. I think Monica played the violin for a little bit, but Stacy still plays the violin, and Stacy sings too. I think she's the most musical one.
This is such a magical
Hmm.
experience. This needs to be made into a movie.
That's the. I mean, I'm documenting it all, so so
Wow.
I want to, eventually one day make it into a documentary. So yeah.
Amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty
So,
crazy.
again,
Yeah.
it's clear that you deserve all of this. And right now, you are on and popping as a photographer within the
Yeah.
LA area
Yeah.
to bring things somewhat full circle. So you just spent time with your newly found siblings in LA
Hmm.
recently.
Hmm.
We see you've got the setup behind you, you got the lighting, the backdrop and
I got the
everything.
lighting. Yep.
And photography has clearly treated you well. Your
Yeah.
photos, I love how vibrant they are. They're so, the
Mm.
colors, the way that you
Thank
grade
you.
your colors in your pictures are beautiful.
Thank you so much.
And to know that you're so multi-talented and that success can and will come to you in a variety of ways. Um, you know, whether you're singing on a Columbus short track or singing with Stevie Wonder himself, whether you are on yet another set of a huge movie, this has already happened multiple times now, whether you are dancing in carnival, like, and it doesn't have to be carnival, like, you can be recognized, you can be in the next biggest music video, like, somebody call Missy Elliott, please, because this man is talented. He needs to dance for Missy. The list goes on. Your photography will be published one day. It will end up in a magazine. You will be a published photographer. This is
It has ended up in magazines.
See, I didn't even who, what, when, where, how, when.
It's not any like big necessarily huge magazines, but you know, I've been in some my photography's been in a couple magazines. I shot the model and actress Crystal Lee Naomi. She's a really dope actress. She's in the show Sisters on BET.
Nice.
And she was in Jane the Virgin, and she was also on Dear White People.
There we go.
Yeah. Super, super dope actress.
So it's already happening.
So it has happened. It's happening.
Have consistently flowed for how long now, and they continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
From the chair that you are in right now, sitting in LA, to bring our interview to a lovely close, to round it out. Knowing what the mission of this podcast is, to one, amplify your voice and magnify your light, which I feel has been done so far today. If that doesn't inspire everyone that watches and listens enough to just hear your story, to hear about the things that you stand for and have stood for, to hear about your different experiences and the positions that you've put yourself into, knowing that you were led and protected by God in order to continue to have these blessings happen for you. If all of that doesn't hit them, Zach, what are your closing thoughts? What would you want to give to people to let them know from your perspective, to inspire them, encourage them, motivate them? What does Zachariah Schmitt have to say?
I would say do what makes you happy at all costs.
Ooh,
because
the at all costs is what
at all costs. Because
don't just do what makes you happy. No, not just what makes you happy, but at all costs.
Right. Yep. Do what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you your best self, because only you can live your life. You're the only person that can live your life, and that's your only responsibility, is for you to live your life. So make it fun, make it full of joy, and live it to your best potential. I posted something yesterday too that kind of pertains to that. It said, if you are the best person that you know, you're probably around the wrong people. So surround yourself with people that are better than you to elevate you to new levels in life, and don't be afraid to distance yourself from people who are holding you back. Because like I said, only you can live your life. So, you know, if you have to, unfortunately, you know, hurt some people in the process, not intentionally, obviously, but, you know, if people can't live your life for you. If people want you to do one thing and you know that those things are not for you, and you know that their life is not, or what they're doing isn't necessarily beneficial to you and what you know that you can do and you know that you're destined for, you need to do what's best for you always.
And as the creator of this podcast and the conductor of this interview, I would like to connect to what you just said and say to anyone watching or listening right now, he said, make it full of joy. He said, make it something that brings you happiness. And there is something that most likely popped into your head when you heard this from Zachariah the Great. That's my new nickname for you, Zachariah the Great. When you heard this, there was most likely something that popped into your head that you feel as though is not serving you, is pulling you down, is discouraging you. There was something or someone. And we're here to tell you that you have the power and that you can find the courage to release that so that you can step forth into your most authentic and joyful self. That is what I'd like to say after your beautiful words.
Amen.
Zach, why are you so great, dude?
Look, I'm just a vessel, man. Like, but you bring it, yeah, you bring the best out of people. I can see. You made it super easy for me to say the things that I meant,
Yes.
and you made me feel very comfortable, and I appreciate you. And the way you conducted this interview was amazing. You
Oh,
are extremely gifted in this area.
stop. We don't
Like,
have to, you don't have to.
please keep going. Nope, listen to what I'm saying.
I'm listening.
Please keep going. Please keep doing this because what you're doing is incredible and what you're doing
Mm,
is needed because you make me feel important. You make everybody that
you
comes in
are.
contact with you feel important, and that is an amazing, amazing quality to have.
Thank you.
So
I'm
thank
going
you.
to hold that. No, you're so welcome, and I really appreciate that. I'm gonna hold that very close, 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 close to my heart. Um, I'm really passionate about this. I love doing it, and I'm just
I can
grateful that.
tell. I can tell. When
However,
you love
God
something,
had
you
to
do it
like,
well.
yo, thank you. God definitely
Mm.
was like, Psh, hey, come on, girl. You know you want to do this. You know you're supposed to be doing this.
Look,
Like that's unfortunately or not unfortunately, that's how he had to get it across to me. Had to go through. I had to go over a few speed bumps before I was like,
hmm
all right, I can do this. So
yes.
It's like,
I can't thank you enough.
oh, absolutely.
You're
It
fine.
was all
I
the pleasure
will
of all
listen.
mine.
If you think of anything else, and on a personal note, I want to share with you, as you were speaking about your siblings and your dad, I I absolutely was brought to tears when you were speaking about your father. But the thought of oh, see, it's about to happen again. Shoot, the thought of your siblings or new family members, whoever they are, possibly seeing this interview. You did a phenomenal job. I think it was a great conversation. I love everything that you expressed, but I feel as though the essence of who you truly are really came through. So I kind of like had a vision of Monica and BJ like sitting together and throwing this on their laptop or something and just listening to you talk about your experiences before they met you, after they met you, how you feel about things and the way that they've gone so far with meeting, finding out about your father and his family, but even before that, your love for acting, the information about Antoine Fisher, and you sang with Jordan Sparks, and like there are just so many little pieces that I know. I was gonna say I feel like, but no, I know your siblings or new cousins or new aunts and uncles or whatever happens when you get to Chicago, they might catch wind of this interview and really listen to it and really be like, yo, this is our new nephew. Like, this is our new brother. What? Beautiful. Your spirit is just beautiful, period.
Thank you
So
so
thank you
much.
for bringing your spirit onto the podcast so I can make sure more people know how beautiful it is.
Uh, Thank you so much. You're an angel.
You're an angel. We can keep calling each other beautiful things all day.
Shout out to Luana G.
Yo, shout out to Luana for real. You looking fresh to death over
She
there.
did that. She did
Braids
that.
looking real fly. If you gonna shout out Luana Jean, then I gotta shout out Tressentials in Raleigh, North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? You see the
Yes.
braids? You see the braids
Look
shining?
at
You know what I
that.
mean?
Look at that. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself a little solo window for that for those days.
You got all the solo window. Here we go. So shout out to
Appreciate it.
Tressentials in
Yeah.
Raleigh, North Carolina. If you want your
Ooh.
hair hooked up, you need to see Tamisha Oconee because she will slay all day. Okay, and then we gonna slide right over here. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me about Luana.
Yeah, okay. So Luana Jean, if you're in Los Angeles, hit up Luana Jean at Luana Jean on Instagram because she's fire. She's the best. And my head doesn't hurt.
I can't say the same. My head hurts, but you know what that means? That means she braided with love. Okay, people.
Yeah, your braids are a lot heavier than mine too. I'm
Yes,
sure.
yes, yes.
It didn't hurt while it was happening either.
Right, right. I
I'm
love this. I can't
intimidated.
wait to. I can't wait for both of them to see this
Right.
impromptu commercial we just shot.
Exactly.
You're the best. I
Yeah.
love reflecting you. I really do. We
Right.
will talk soon. I gotta go potty.
All right. All right.